Good morning, everybody. Welcome to NFL Week 4, Sunday edition of Let's Bet It here on Pickswise, presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Jared Smith. Bobby Stanley in the saddle this morning. Bobby, what's up, bud?
Good morning, man. It is a rainy, windy day in New Jersey, but I got to wake up to some football, so it's a good start.
Yeah, so I had before dawn football. You guys have breakfast football. It was 6:30 a.m. local time here in Las Vegas when I popped the London game on. I'll be honest, it was a little weird to hear God Save the King instead of God. That was the first time we've ever heard that anthem played for a London game before. And then also just these vibes in general with this game early on. I did put a little sprinkle on the first half under just because that was kind of the trends that I was seeing. Didn't love the first drive, but things have kind of settled in a little bit over these last couple of drives. Andy Dalton looks okay, but not great. I think Kirk Cousins is dink and dunk city today, and doesn't look like either team really can run the ball so far.
No, yeah, I'm on Justin Jefferson over 6.5 receptions. I got it at plus money. He had 2 on the opening drive, and like you said, it's kind of settling in at this point. But I'm feeling good early. And as you mentioned, it's 6:30 a.m. for you. It's 9:30 a.m. for me in Jersey. The closest we're gonna get to being what the West Coast has with football. We get to wake up, eat your eggs and bacon, and then start watching football. We don't have that in Jersey. We start at 1, so this is a pleasant distraction, I would say, before the 1 p.m. games.
Yeah, a little bit of a distraction. I would say it's a little bit of an inconvenience to be doing a show while the NFL is happening, but we will do our best to keep one eye on that game and one eye fixated on you, the audience. Let's go through what we're going to run down today. We'll have some injury updates off the top of the show. Let's get propping. I mean, we've got Prop Holiday on the show, so we're going to have a significant amount of prop coverage for you today. And then we'll bring in John Jansen from Fox Sports The Gambler, host of The Line Change, in a little bit. We'll get his thoughts. Big week for the Eagles. Was not expecting Eagles-Jaguars to be one of the marquee games today when I looked at the schedule a few weeks ago, but that's where we are, as the Jags certainly have looked the part. We'll also go into eyes of the beholder, some of the key matchups today, the elite quarterback matchups on the card. We'll talk some teasers to you, and of course, we'll close things up with our plays of the day. Don't forget, Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on all the Apple and Spotify podcast sites as well for you to get all your Let's Bet It and Pickswise content. All right, let's start with some injury updates. Started out really bad, the week did, at least for the Chargers. We're hearing Joey Bosa, I guess out for the year. It says 8 to 10 weeks, but I'm hearing out for the year. I think at this stage of the season, it's fair to say we won't see him during the rest of the regular season. And just the Chargers are decimated, Bobby, by injuries. Herbert, of course, still nursing the McRib. Lindsley, Keenan Allen, Rashawn Slater, their other offensive tackle, out for the year. I mean, it is a laundry list for the Chargers, but they're still favored today against the Texans. Talk about, to me, where you see LA at right now with all of these, injuries.
It's a shame because I think in the beginning of the season, the pass rushing duo of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa was one of the better ones in the league. The line on this game opened at 6.5. Now it's down to 5.5. And it's a shame because there's so much hype going into the Chargers this season with the injuries. I think Slater, the left tackle, is huge, especially with Herbert nursing those ribs. I think the Texan game is going to be a little bit more interesting than 5.5 leads. It could be a little bit more competitive, especially after we saw from Jacksonville last week, really laid it on the Chargers. So in a bounce back spot, let's see how this fares. But sucks for Bosa. I really like what we're doing off the edge.
Yeah, I saw a hair tick up today with the Chargers. It looks like I'm seeing some 6s in the market now. So maybe there's again, to reiterate, the line moves on Sunday morning, right around this time, actually, right around 10 a.m. Eastern. Is when the limits expand and when all of a sudden you see a lot of the big money enter the market. So some of the money that's been, waiting in the wings all week, they will wait until Sunday morning. And that's when you'll see some of the more significant line moves. Of course, the injuries and the inactives will also dictate some of the market at this time. But it looks like we're seeing a little bit of smart money come in on LA at this stage. Cordero Patterson, that's another big one. For the Falcons. Schefter reports plans to play week 4 against the Browns. I was on the fence on this game, Bobby. I started the week really hot hot and bothered on the Atlanta train, seeing some of the numbers Marcus Mariota's put up. And then, the Myles Garrett news, we hope he's okay from the car crash. He won't play today. I saw the video. I have a friend who's a news reporter in Ohio, and that injury, it was like the body cam footage of him being taken out of the car and then put into the ambulance. It was scary. He won't play today. Then that kind of got me onto the Falcons side. But then I started looking at our buddy Clev TA, started tweeting out some nuggets about the Browns running game and how the Falcons have handled some of those running games. And then I kind of, ticked over to the Browns side a little bit. Listen, this game's a pick 'em, basically a pick 'em. I think the Browns are a 1-point favorite in the market right now. How does the Cordero Patterson injury impact this game in your eyes?
Well, it speaks a lot for Tyler Algier, rookie running back out of BYU. I was on him last week to score a touchdown. The odds were like plus 360. Now we fast forward to this week, plus 110, plus 120. So they're in a big role. I love betting the Falcons if I can get them, I don't know, plus 5.5, plus 6.5 in some of these games, because if they're down 10 in the fourth quarter, the offense can run the ball. But in a pick-em, it's usually a stay away for me. But they have been, I would say, overperformers so far this year. With the Browns, they're coming off a long week. Obviously, they have the Thursday night football against the Steelers. A little bit more time to prepare. And as you pointed out, Myles Garrett playing, it's big. Not just it's big for the locker room as well. So in general, I would stay away. Falcons in a pick 'em just scares me.
Yeah, I think I went Browns in the contest just to support our pal Clev TA. He had him in his contest this week, and I don't know. I feel like Cleveland's going to run the ball pretty effectively in this game. And I think that's where I kind of changed my mind midweek, thinking that maybe the Mariota numbers a little bit fugazi, because at some point Arthur Smith's scheme, it's a little more gimmicky than most because they used Patterson out of the backfield, and Mariota over time has been proven fraudulent. So to me, I think if Patterson's not 100%, I think this really puts me in Cleveland territory. All right, another running back that kind of does everything. Christian McCaffrey, thigh injury. Looks like he's going to play. Missed a lot of practice this week. We're going to talk a lot about this game during my play of the day, so I don't want to go nuts with the handicap. But I'll be honest, this is a spot with Arizona that I really like. Even if McCaffrey plays, I think the Cardinals are the right side.
Yeah. I mean, their offense, even with McCaffrey back, I can only think of two really wow plays the entire season for this Panthers. It was the week 1 Robbie Anderson touchdown, and last week with Laviska Shenault. Other than that, this offense has looked flat, even with McCaffrey healthy. So him playing helps, him being banged up. We'll see what we get out of him. We may see Hubbard a little bit more than usual. But yeah, I think we're both going to touch the experiment. I think he's really starting to is a backup at this point.
Yeah, I'm not too high on Carolina. We discussed it a little bit before the show. The locker room right now with Matt Rule is in question, and I think if you were going to make a bet right now on the first coach to be fired, it would probably be him. And I'll touch on the handicap in this game a little bit later in the show during our play of the day segment, but I don't like this spot for Carolina. The weather is not a factor either. I was worried it might be. Even if it was, I like the Cardinals running game anyways, but the weather, that is another note with a lot of these games today. We thought the hurricane would impact some of the southeastern coast games. That doesn't look to be the case. Charlotte's okay. Tampa's okay. It looks like the Northeast in New York and Philly are going to be the weather games today, and we'll touch base with John Jansen in a bit. He is boots on the ground in the city of brotherly love. I know Bobby's in New Jersey right now, so we can get some weather updates from some locals, but it does look like the Northeast games will have more weather to them today than some of the Southeast. Of course, the hurricane not playing as big of a factor as maybe we thought early in the week. All right, the hurricane won't play a factor in this game. Niners-Rams. Trent Williams, this is a huge injury for the Niners. And I know this game's on Monday night, so we'll talk about it tomorrow on the show. But I'll be honest, I definitely downgrade the Niners, maybe not a full point, but a half a point without Trent Williams. What say you on this injury?
No, it's big. It's definitely big for Jimmy Garoppolo. Never a guy that was going to push the ball downfield to begin with, but now if he's under consistent pressure from his blind side, it makes you wonder if they fall behind, how effective can that offense be? The way they've always been effective against the Rams is Shanahan scheming up ways to successfully run the football. If they become one-dimensional, it could be a spot for the Rams there, but admittedly, I'm a little bit biased.
Speaking of biased, Kirk Cousins is biased towards throwing interceptions. It just happened a few moments ago. Still 7-0 Vikings. So my first half under, while the first drive of the game, I wanted to throw my microphone through the window here after a 3rd and 15, 3rd and goal from the 15 touchdown. That's all we've got so far on the board. 7-0. It looks like the Saints do have the ball across midfield, so we'll keep you updated on that one. All right, let's get propping, Bobby. This is your bread and butter. I'm just going to leave it open to you. What do you got on your prop card today?
Well, we talked about a little bit before with the Cardinals and Panthers. The first prop is over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus 125. Love. The Panthers played well defense to start the season, but they're facing the likes of Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones, and Winston. It's not the same as playing a Kyler Murray. I think this line's just an overreaction to last week to what the Rams did to the Cardinals offense. But McVay historically owns Cliff Kingsbury. So prior to that, the Cardinals were averaging 25 points per game in the first 2 weeks. They have an explosive offense, minus last week. Murray hit this in both games in his career against Carolina, which speaks pretty well. And he gets Rondale Moore being effective. He still opens up more opportunities for the rest of the wide receivers and Zach Ertz in that offense. And as you pointed out, rumor has it Rule may have lost the locker room. So it's a good spot here. I'm getting Kyler Murray over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus 125.
What else you got on your card, bud?
Staying in the 4 o'clock slate, and I'm liking longest reception over 18.5 yards. I really do love this play. He's hit it in 2 of the 3 games this season. Benefits greatly from Devontae Adams just drawing a lot of attention from opposing secondary, something he didn't really have last year. Nearly half of his targets per game are in that deep to longer intermediate route, so 10 to 20 yards plus. His average target is 13 yards, and his yards after catch per reception is 6.8. He's breaking tackles and getting upfield. He's having a not a bad year. I feel like this line should be 19.5, 20.5, but I'm getting it at 18.5, and he's done it in 4 straight games against the Broncos. So longest reception for Waller, over 18.5 yards.
And Pierce touchdown. I mean, this is a guy that we're waiting to show up. We're waiting for this Colts offense and Matt Ryan to show up. Today's the day.
I'm hoping so. I got my eye on the rookie wide receiver, Alec Pierce. I got to have a touchdown prop every week. Alec Pierce plus 250. If I look at this tight there, opposing wide receivers all season, they've given up 6 so far. The Titans secondary ranked 20th in coverage according to PFF, and Pierce flirted with scoring in the 2 games he played. He missed 1 week, and he's still 3rd in red zone targets on the match. Roger McCreary, he's ranked like 52nd out of 103, so about middle of the pack for corners and coverage. I think he gets his first touchdown today at 50.
All right, good stuff. That's Bobby's props for the day. Of course, does a great job writing up for the site and the NFL props. Man, I wish I could get more involved in the NFL props. It has not been something I've dabbled a lot with this year. I leave it to the experts like Prop Holiday. All right, let's transition just a little bit, and we're going to bring in John Jansen now, co-host of The Line Change on Fox Sports. The Gambler does a great job. Usually I'm the one going on his show, but today he's coming on mine. So can we get John Jansen in the mix yet? No, not yet. All right, let's continue with Eye of the Beholder. Some of the elite quarterback matchups today before we bring in John Jansen. We do have one of them in Philly, between the Jags and the Eagles, which is ironic enough. But let's get to the elite quarterback, the real elite. Sorry, John and the Eagles. The real elite quarterbacks doing battle. Bills, Ravens, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Listen, Lamar looks like an MVP candidate right now. And I think when you talk about what he's been able to do this year, I don't know if it's sustainable. I think Josh Allen's played slightly below expectations so far. The game 1 against the Rams looks, I want to say, an outlier performance. That kind of dominance we have not seen since, really. I don't really count that game against the Titans. That was not a very becoming defense. But I think you saw a little bit more regression from Josh Allen last week in that game against the Dolphins. What do we see this week in what also could be a bit of a weather game in Baltimore today?
I was shocked. I mean, the Bills are -3 on the road. If you're telling me the 6-point favorite on a neutral field, it's pretty telling. I mean, consider the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs, top three teams in the AFC, and they're already telling us that the Bills are 6 points better than them. I mean, Bills probably the best pass rush in the NFL. Lamar is completing 47% of his passes while under pressure. Not that good. And the Bills, what's the most impressive? They're doing this without having to blitz. When Lamar is not blitzed, he's still only completing 53% of his passes, and he has 2 INTs. So what's going to be big for me in this game is if the Bills can get home without blitzing, it's going to be a long day for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, the weather is going to be a factor in this game. So I wrote in our best bets column this week, I wrote that I did like the over in this game, especially when it dropped to that key total of 51. It opened 53, 54. We saw some sharp money come in on the under based on the weather forecast earlier in the week. Once it dropped to 51, my thought was if the weather is overblown, pun intended, and it's not as bad as expected, these are two of the best quarterbacks in the league, two explosive offenses. Josh Allen's explosiveness has been a bit muted so far this year. His yards per attempt, air yards wise, a little lower than I would have expected. Ken Dorsey has not let the shackles off this offense yet. But my thinking was, if the weather wasn't as bad as people thought and as bad as the early week forecast indicated, we are getting value here on the over. Well, the weather looks to be average to slightly below average, and now we're seeing the total drop under that key total of 51. I'm seeing 50s in the market right now. That is a massive, massive drop. I think the Saints just scored a touchdown. Yes, they did. How about that? Andy Dalton leads the touchdown drive. Good for the New Orleans Saints. But now that we're at this part of the week, I probably am not going to bet this over. So I apologize to anyone who read the column this week that got in on the over early, even though I explicitly said we're waiting until game day to see what the weather is. I think now that we're on game day, and I'm continuing to see this total drop down to 50 at the sharp shops here in town, Westgate being one of them, I'm probably laying off this total. I think if I do like an over today to give you, I think it's the Commanders Cowboys, and I'm going to lock it in right after the show. I'm trying to get a 41 somewhere in town. But that's the total that I like today. So as much as this Bills-Ravens game should be exciting, two elite quarterbacks, I think the weather is going to make it a little less exciting. And we'll see what the game plan is for both of these teams. I'll be honest, neither team really runs the ball that effectively in a traditional sense. The run game is more based off of the two quarterbacks. Very fascinated to see what the game plan is for both of these teams. All right, later tonight, Chiefs-Bucks. Game's basically a pick 'em now. Opened early in the week. The Chiefs were a slight favorite. It's come down because the Bucks are starting to get a little healthier. And I haven't checked the injury report this morning, but it looks like they're going to get all their receivers back. Donovan Smith is the other one that I'm curious about, the left tackle. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup. But Godwin, it looks like, is going to play. It looks like Julio Jones and Russell Gage are both going to play. And I'll be honest, this Bucks team, if they start to get a little healthy, Bobby, is pretty dangerous because I would say they're undervalued in the market right now.
One player you forgot to mention wasn't on the offensive side of the ball, but Akeem Hicks, the defensive tackle, is expected to be out. And they have one of the best rush defenses in the NFL. So could hurt the rush defense. But them getting healthy is something you want to see if you're a Bucks fan. I mean, Brady without his weapons, the offenses look pedestrian. So not something we're used to seeing with Tom Brady. I mean, every game this season for the Bucks has gone 30 or under. And we really have yet to see Brady go score for score with anyone, which kind of concerns me as he's getting up there in age and the injuries to that interior offensive line. It should be a good one. I'm excited for a good primetime Sunday game, but it could be a bounce back spot as the Bucks start to get a little bit healthier.
I agree. Unfortunately, we have to cancel John Jansen today. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to hop into the Eagles game and cap it on our own. Eagles-Jags today. Listen, this is a game I think if you asked me 4 weeks ago, these two teams are headlining Sunday 1 o'clock. I would lie. I would say you're lying to me. I think the Eagles are a lot better on defense than I gave them credit for. But these are two of the only, there's three teams in the NFL top 10 in EPA per play on offense and defense. And these are two of them today, the Bills being the other one. Trevor Lawrence, surprisingly, slightly ahead of Jalen Hurts in EPA plus CPOE, completion percentage over expectation. That is surprising to me. The thing that's even more surprising to me is how good Jalen Hurts has been on, or excuse me, how good Trevor Lawrence has been on early downs. He's second in the NFL in that EPA plus CPOE composite category on early downs. And we discussed this earlier in the week. Early down quarterback efficiency, in my eyes, is the most predictive stat you can give for a quarterback. Because on late downs, it's volatile. Third downs, fourth downs, the defense is trying to stop the pass most of the times. So if you're, way above expectation on third downs, those numbers tend to regress. If you are playing at a high level on early downs, that is the most, I don't want to say easiest, but it's, again, the most predictive in terms of how you are grading out and how your offense is really performing. And right now, Trevor Lawrence is one of the best quarterbacks in the league in that category. Is it sustainable for this Jaguars offense to continue to play this well, especially in a spot today where they're catching almost a full touchdown?
It's what Doug Peterson has done with Trevor Lawrence in this 1 year to Urban Meyer to his second year. It's impressive. His footwork looks better. He looks more calm. He looks more in control. Last year, for what he was being touted as, he looked in over his head, which I was shocked. But they brought in a few more weapons. They bring in Evan Ingram. They bring in Christian Kirk, and Christian Kirk has paid off dividends, believe it or not. I like what I'm seeing from Jacksonville. A little bit shocked at the 6.5. There is some significant injuries. Boston Scott, the running back, they go through running backs like they're candy. But slot cornerback Avonte Maddox is ruled out. Could be a big day for Christian Kirk. And then you start moving around other pieces in that Eagles secondary, which could be something for Trevor Lawrence to exploit. So 6.5 is a little bit high, but as you pointed out, I'm impressed with what we saw from Philly last week. They have been outstanding getting pressure with four guys. 4 sacks in the first quarter last week, and that game was never close. We talked about it a little bit, Jared, when we were handicapping last week. I actually like the Commanders at home in a divisional game. They got blown out of the water. They never got going offensively. They didn't score until the fourth quarter. But we have yet to see this Philly offense play from behind. When you can run the ball successfully, when they're going up tempo, they look one of the best in the league. How are they going to look if they fall 1 or 2 scores? And we saw what Jacksonville did to the Chargers last week. Until I see them play from behind successfully with that style of offense, that'll determine if I'm sold on Philly as a legit Super Bowl contender. Maybe we get that this week against the Chargers.
I think the defense is where I've been the most impressed with the Eagles. After the first 2 weeks, I was very skeptical after seeing some of their tackling grades. And I didn't know what we were going to get from the front four against the Commanders' offensive line. That, listen, I'm not going to say that they're good, but there is some revenge vibes for Carson Wentz in that game. Well, he completely shat the bed. Yes. And I was very impressed with how the Eagles defense played in that game. If they follow that up with another really strong performance today against the Jaguars offense, that has been, again, like I said, Trevor Lawrence is one of the best performing quarterbacks on early downs so far this season. If that continues today, then we'll temper our expectations. But from what I've been told from some Philly people, they're already throwing the Super Bowl parade. So we'll see if that vibe is still hanging out down Broad Street after this game today. Eagles futures right now, if you're interested, 8-1 to win the Super Bowl, 350 to win the NFC. By the way, I did take a slice of them to win the NFC this week. It was in our Back to the Futures column. And the reason being, not as much Philly strength, but NFC weakness, frankly. The Rams are down, I think. The Bucs are injured. The Packers look a little bit pedestrian. I can't really think of another team that deserves to be the NFC favorite right now. I think the Eagles are deserving of it. And their schedule, Bobby, is really why I love this bet. They're going to be favored in basically every game for the rest of the season. There's no reason why, because of the weakness in the NFC and because of their hot start, that they shouldn't be the number 1 seed. And my thinking right now, betting their future at this stage of the season, if we get the number 1 seed in our back pocket now at, I got plus 370, It was either plus 370 or plus 380. Check Pickswise.com, the column, to figure out which number it was. Then I know that number is going to be significantly less come postseason week 1 wildcard round when they're sitting around watching everyone else play, and the NFC is kind of cannibalizing itself in what is a down year for the conference. Any futures, vibes for you with the Eagles going forward?
I think you nailed it with the NFC. I mean, going into the season, you got the Bucks, the Packers, and the Rams. They were supposed to be the elite of the NFC, but we were all kind of expecting some regression. We've seen it. So now you're picking from the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Vikings. Well, the Vikings have been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, depending which week you're watching. San Fran, I thought, got better Garoppolo, but then you lose Trent Williams, and we'll see how that turns out. And then obviously the Eagles, the schedule matters, the way they're playing offensively. The wide receiver core looked phenomenal last week against Washington. I think the Eagles have to be your bet if you're looking for that surprise team to come and take the NFC this year. They've deserved it offensively, defensively. It's looking good early.
It is a punt for the Vikings. It looks like 7-7 is your score with about 5 minutes left in the half, barring a touchdown drive by Andy Dalton in the de facto 4-minute drill. It looks like we are going to survive our first half under. We'll see. Still some time left for us to be screwed in some capacity by a pick six or a weird fumble or a turnover or something. But with 5 minutes left and the ball in Andy Dalton's hands deep in his own territory, I'd like to think my first half under is looking a little bit refreshed after that first drive. But we'll keep you updated. All right, let's move on to our teaser category. Talk teasers to me. So I've had this teaser locked in since basically Monday because I thought for sure the Broncos line would move against the Vegas Raiders. When I opened up my Superbook app on Monday morning and I saw the Raiders were favored against the Broncos by 2 points, I was like, all right, well, that's not going to last, right? The money's going to move towards Denver in that game. So I took my Cardinals game, which I love. We talked about the Cardinals all week. It's a 3-star play on the site for me this week. And I moved them from 1.5 to 7.5. I thought that was a good spot for Arizona to tease. And then I thought Denver was the perfect pair there to get the the Broncos through 2 key numbers, 3 and 7. And what happens the rest of the week? Well, the line starts moving towards Vegas. It's up to 3 now. I'm seeing it Superbook 2.5 minus 20, but there are 3s available in the market. That tells me there is some really smart money coming in on the Las Vegas Raiders. I will repeat that for the people in the back. There is smart money coming in this week on the Las Vegas Raiders. Bobby, please explain that to me because I don't understand it.
They're banking on the Raiders finally getting their first win of the season against a divisional opponent. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett is who he is. I think it's been pretty well publicized what everybody feels about them. Coming off an 11-10 ugly win on Sunday Night Football against the Niners last week. Maybe they're expecting, I don't know if that's called a short week or anything because it's a late game, but I had high hopes for this Raiders team coming into the season. I thought McDaniels with Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller matches what he's done in his career in New England. We're not seeing it defensively. The offensive line, I think, is in shambles. And I have a couple Raiders fans that I work with, and they're starting to question if Derek Carr's the guy. It's sad because I really like him off the field. They love him off the field. But on the field,
off the field, he's amazing.
On the field, the turnover is not something they're used to with Derek Carr. He's usually been pretty good at holding on to the football, and he had a few picks last week. I'm shocked by this line, but sharp money is sharp for a reason. The teaser part of this, I definitely think makes the most sense if you're on the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it checks all the boxes. I'll be honest, it doesn't check the boxes today because 2.5 minus 23, basically, is what that's telling you. Doesn't make as much sense to tease through 3. You're already at 3. You're getting it through 7, obviously. But here's a funny little quirk. More games so far this year have landed on 1 and 2 than have landed on 6 and 7. Now, very early in the year, obviously it should change. But I think there's a part of the key number element of the NFL that is transforming. Like if you go back and look at a map of the earth from 1 billion years ago when it was like a Pangea, and then it slowly started to make its way to the continents that we know today, it looks like the key numbers gaps are starting to decrease between the traditional key numbers of 6 and 7 and 4. And now you're getting these complete, Easter egg 1s and 2s starting to become a little more common. It makes sense if you think about it from a narrative perspective. More kickers are missing extra points. More teams are going for 2. That is skewing the numbers. And there's less points in the NFL. So unlike college football where there's more touchdowns, there's more possessions, in the NFL, if you eliminate those 3s and 6s and 7s because it's a field goal, a touchdown, an extra point, and you start getting these touchdown for 2 and extra point misses and this and that, it's going to start to skew the key numbers. Now, nothing significantly statistical to really report because we need years of this to really figure it out. And we're only in year 2 of the extra points being moved back and the 2-point conversions being these new analytical things, right? Year 2, year 3. Yeah. So in 5 years, we'll have a much more substantial data set to present to you. But Bobby, I'll be honest, the traditional 3s and 6s and 7s, 3 maybe being the outlier, but 6s and 7s to me, kind of a thing of the past, right? No, I'm just kidding. Not a thing of the past, but definitely changing a little bit.
No, it definitely is. You hit the nail on the head. I've seen a lot more missed extra points than I can remember. Bringing that back obviously contributes to that, and people going for 2 more, people taking the gamble. I think we're going to see it this week. Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Chiefs, is out. What is that going to change? What is that going to do to that score? If taking a field goal is out of the question, if extra points are now in question, we're going to see a lot weirder scores that we're used to. So it's a fair point. In 2-3 years from now, let's see where the data goes.
Yeah. And again, I will be tracking it this year, obviously. We'll see where we're at next year with it. But at the end of last season, I wrote up an article for Pickswise.com about how I was intrigued to see more games land 1 and 2. I mean, just think about it from this perspective only. 5 games already this season have landed on 1. All of last season, only 8. We're only in week 4. Now, we might have 0 games land on 1 the rest of the year. Very possible. I would bet no. I would be willing to bet that we have more games land on 1 this year than we had last year. It's not going to take much. Could happen today. Could happen in this Saints-Vikings game. We'll see. All right, so my official teaser this week, Broncos up to 8 and the Cardinals up to 7.5. Any other teaser legs you'd like to offer up to our audience before we move on?
I'm shocked that you were sitting there with a Jets shirt on and didn't think to tease the Jets up to
I don't bet my Jets.
9.5.
I don't bet my Jets.
If Mitch Trubisky can beat a team by 2 scores. How do you know
what's going to happen today with Zach Wilson? He could be awful.
He could, but I still think Mitch Trubisky is equally as awful in the worst case scenario that Zach Wilson is awful. So having Mitch Trubisky beat anyone by 2 scores would be an anomaly to me. So I would consider teasing the Jets up to 9.5. Other than that, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Cardinals plus 7.5. We're both pretty aligned on that one.
Yeah, the big reason that I would stay away from that from a teaser leg is because it's already at 3.5, so you significantly downgrade. I would say that's kind of like a minus EV teaser to move from 3.5 to 9.5. Now, listen, I've made minus EV teasers all the time. Week 1, I moved the freaking Texans from 8 to 14. That's like the most minus EV teaser ever. But it still hit. Texans did. But I could have just played them on the spread, and I still would have cashed. But, yeah, listen, that we haven't talked about that Jets-Steelers game. It's not a very exciting game. Totals in the low 40s. Trubisky, Zach Wilson, what are we going to get there? I don't know. Listen. The New York Football Jets have been playing better, I think, than some people expected this year. I think their defense is a formidable unit. I think their defense will keep them in a lot of games this year. But there's a part of me that would like to see Joe Flacco play 17 games and see if this team can't go 500.
Wow.
I think Joe Flacco might be a better fit for the Jets right now than Zach Wilson. We'll see today. I could very well eat those words today. But veteran quarterback on a young team with basically a rookie second-year head coach and a young defense that's really talented. I'd rather have the veteran quarterback steady hand than the young gunslinger that gets hurt every 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll see. I hope I eat my words, and I hope Zach Wilson's the next freaking Lamar Jackson. But I haven't gotten that vibe yet based off of his first few snaps. Basically, we've basically only seen 7 games for him. How many games has he played in the league?
It's been small sample size. I do like his ability to make plays with his legs. The kid does have a cannon on him for as tiny and young as he looks. It's going to be, can he make, like you said, plays on early downs? Can he make the intermediate throws? Can he not air it out every play and play smart? Hopefully you see that maturity from year 1 to year 2. That's what you're looking for in a second-year quarterback. We haven't seen that yet through the first 4 weeks. It's going to be a game I actually keep my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, we keep our eyes on every game, right? It looks like the Vikings are driving here to sink my first half under. If they score a touchdown and kick the extra point, my first half under will go down in flames on the final plays of the half. That basically has been my vibe. I had a brutal day in college football yesterday, absolutely brutal. So I wouldn't be shocked if Kirky boy sticks one in the end zone here in the last drive. Cousins over the middle. Jefferson's getting involved here. That's good for your prop. It's a red zone possession now. 2-minute warning for the Vikings and the Saints, tied at 7 in the first half. All right, Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com, download the app today. And this season, guys and girls, we are rooting for safeties. We had a safety last week in that Broncos-Niners game. It was all Jimmy Garoppolo. Thank you very much. That's because Superbook's going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place 100 bones on a pregame bet, spread, or total. If there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. All right, plays of the day. Let me do a refresh on the site right here. We do have Howard Bender chiming in on the Chargers-Texans game. We also have some Sunday matinee baseball for you. Guardians, Royals, Red Sox, Blue Jays. And hey, why not? Luke Lindholm's got a LAFC Portland Timbers 3-star bet for you on the site. Brian Prouty, Kyle Lupus, Sam Avalone, and yours truly on the Panthers and the Cardinals 3-star plays on the site. All right, Bobby, play of the day. What you got?
All right, my first play of the day this season with you guys. I normally just pop into the segment. You're an 80s baby like me, Jared. I'm going to go with the over-the-top, Lincoln Hawk, turn the cap back play of the day. And I'm on Davis Mills, over 21.5 completions. So we talked about this Charger game a little bit when we mentioned Joey Bosa's injury. Chargers are allowing almost 25 completions per game to opposing quarterbacks. It's ranked 24th. And a completion percentage of nearly 67% to opposing quarterbacks, ranked 22nd. They have a scheme. We talk about it a lot. It allows a lot of underneath passes to be completed. This all works in Davis Mills' favor. He's averaged 35 pass attempts per game. I have him projected at 23 completions, and Joey Bosa moving to the IR, I think, gives Davis a little bit more time to operate. So Davis Mills over 21.5 completions today for my play of the day.
I like it. Texans are one of my plays for the contest. I'll give you my contest plays just because, actually, to be fair, they're really, I'm tailing Clev TA because he's much better at picking contest picks than me. But I am on the Cardinals today for my best bet, plus 1.5. I love this spot for Arizona. Listen, I think when you talk about this Panthers team, there is an element of just overall decay with this offense under Baker Mayfield. I mean, out of 33 quarterbacks that have graded out so far this season, of course, Dak and Cooper Rush being the 32nd, 33rd. That's why we have an extra one in the mix here. Baker is 32nd out of 33 quarterbacks in EPA plus CPOE, completion percentage over expectation. He's 33rd in success rate. He is worse than what Dak Prescott did in week 1 against the Bucs. That short sample size of Dak Prescott's success rate. He's having a lower success rate than that. Bottom 10 in air yards. Completion percentage barely over 50%. I can make a case right now that Baker Mayfield's the worst quarterback in the NFL. I think Justin Fields is also in the mix, but I think you can make a case that Baker Mayfield is the worst quarterback in the NFL. We'll see if things change today against the Cardinals defense that has struggled. 31st in EPA per play against the pass, 57% success rate on dropbacks. But they are first in pass rush win rate. Got to give credit to J.J. Watt, big reason why. Zach Allen on the interior as well has had a great season, and Isaiah Simmons on the outside, absolutely fantastic. This Arizona defense has been maligned, but who were their first three opponents? Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr. Los Angeles Rams, Matt Stafford. Baker Mayfield's not even in the same stratosphere as those three guys. Very different vibe today for this Cardinals defense going up against a much, much worse and inaccurate quarterback with Baker Mayfield. And oh, by the way, we are starting to hear rumblings from the Panthers locker room that Matt Rule has lost said locker room. This dude is 11-25 as a head coach in his career. He is 1-25 when his team allows 17 points. Are we really under the impression today that the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray are not going to score 17 points against this Panthers? I would say over 17 points for the Cardinals offense today, and plus 1.5, my best bet of the week. 3-star play on the site. We're back in the Cardinals. Come on. We lost last week on our 3-star. We got to get back on track this week. Hopefully Arizona gets us home. All right, Bobby, that's all for us today. Any parting shots here, week 4, before we say farewell to the audience?
No, that's it for me, man. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this Sunday morning London game. Hopefully, my Justin Jefferson over 6.5 receptions hits. I think he's sitting at 4 right now in the first half. I feel pretty good about it. But no, man, it's been a pleasure.
Field goal attempt.
Here we go. Everybody's happy.
It looks like my first half under is going to come home, barring some, absurdities in the final minute from Andy Dalton. But it's been a pleasure. Bobby, great job. Appreciate the time, bud. We'll talk to you soon, probably tomorrow, right, for Monday Night Football?
Oh, yeah, I got a lot for the Rams and Niners. I'm excited for that one.
Rams-Niners tomorrow night. Ladies and gents, appreciate you watching. Let's Bet It. Good luck here in week 4 of the NFL.
Take care.